Welcome everyone to today's Radar Opus North America focus on theme repertories. I'm Marci Mearns, and I'm really happy to be with you today and share what is hopefully some new information or new perspectives on old information. All right. So with that being said, we've got an hour and 15 on the clock. And as I mentioned just prior to starting the recording here, if you have a question, you can jot it down. You can put it into the chat. I will stop from time to time to make sure that I've got everybody covered. In terms of your questions, if you would like to unmute yourself and you have that ability, feel free to interrupt me as well. Okay. So with all that being said, here is our agenda for today. We're going to go over these topics, and I'm just going to jump right into it. I do have a case example at the end, which we will cover in a little bit of depth and let you have a chance to see the idea of the theme repertory in action. Okay, so let's start with the question, what is a theme repertory? Now, if we think about the idea of a theme, an implicit or recurrent idea or motif, this is basically something that's quite familiar to us as homeopaths. This is something that we work with a lot, particularly when we are doing what we would call constitutional or chronic casework, or any of the flavors of the newer kinds of homeopathic practice, right? We're looking very often at themes. Now, a theme repertory then would be a repertory, which I consider to be an index of symptoms, basically, a repertory whose rubrics or symptoms are based on themes. These are usually larger rubrics, and they're very often in or contained within either the mind chapter of a particular book, or they pertain to the mental and emotional sphere of what we might call symptomology. Okay, so the three books that I have chosen for today to look at are Jeremy Sherr's Repertory of Mental Qualities. I believe it's now officially called the Q-Rep. I remember when it came out, it was Repertory of Mental Qualities. Manny Norland's new Thematic Repertory, which is included in your Radar Opus packages, most of them if you have the higher level package. And then Michal Yakir's Botanical Repertory, which has a themes section as well. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at all three of these and see how they might be useful. Okay. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is, these are some theme examples from, I'm just going to show you some examples of the kinds of themes that are contained in each one of these repertories. And obviously you can see here, these are things that in the old days in Kent's repertory, for example, or even in the synthesis, we would have trouble finding these particular symptoms for our patients. So those are some of Jeremy's rubrics for mental qualities. Here are examples of some of the rubrics, or the themes, I should say, from Manny Norland's thematic repertory. And then some of the themes that are included in Yakir's botanical repertory are listed here. Now you'll notice that these themes, you see where we have the number of remedies in each one. These are quite large. Same goes for mental qualities. These are big rubrics, okay? When we get down here to Yakir's theme chapter.
Share your screen, Marci.
Oh, for goodness sake. You know what? Thank you. Give me 2 seconds. Oh my gosh. It's not the first time I've done this. Thank you. I'm going to go back really quickly. I'm going to welcome you. These are the themes. Themes, what's a repertory? And let's take a look here. These are the three books that we're going to delve into. Again, thank you, whoever pulled my chain. I so appreciate it. And here are the samples from Jeremy's, some from Jeremy's mental qualities repertory. You'll notice that these are relatively small. In parentheses, we have the number, I should say large. the number of remedies included in each rubric. Here again, in Norland's thematic repertory, fairly large rubrics. In the themes chapter in Yakir's botanical repertory, the themes are not as large. But never mind, they can still be quite useful if that's the direction we're going, okay? So in general, these are large rubrics, and again, usually in the mind or emotional realm. Now, where do these rubrics come from? So I've given you a list of some of the possible places where these rubrics have been created. And each one of these books that we're going to look at has a slightly different approach to creating, or the source, I should say, for these rubrics. So in the case of Norland's thematic repertory, the primary source for what's contained, and then we'll see this in a moment, are combining of existing rubrics within the mind chapter. So it's creating what you might call a Mondo rubric. Jeremy emphasizes, in addition to using existing mental rubrics, he also, with his team, did a really deep dive into older materia medica, clinical confirmations, even older repertories, and of course, provings of old remedies as well as newly proven ones. So you can get a lot of information in some of these theme repertories. And others, this would be the case with the botanical repertory, is that those rubrics or themes are maybe representative of a system that exists within or even outside of homeopathy. In this case, we'll see as we go forward something about the botanical repertory itself and the system that's represented. So any of these kinds of sources will be where those themed rubrics come from. Okay? Now, let's touch on the subject of when and why you might want to choose a theme repertory. So I want to go back to Hahnemann for just a moment as a reminder. Aphorism 211, and I've underlined the relative portion here. The choice of the homeopathic medicine is often determined by the state of mind of the patient, which is a very characteristic symptom. Okay, so very characteristic mentals could be important in choosing our medicine. And in aphorism 213, he's going to remind us of another important point. If we do not see among the other symptoms in each disease, even the grave ones, the symptoms related to changes in mental and moral conditions, we will never be able to heal according to nature, that is homeopathically. So Hahnemann here is really reminding us of the importance of the mental symptoms in our case taking. Now, the reality is that this is one of the biggest difficulties we have. The mind symptoms are very subjective by nature, and they can often be really difficult to locate our patient's remedy picture, or mental and emotional picture, I should say, within the confines of available symptoms, right? So the themes can help us to model the characteristics of our patients in the mental and emotional realm. This is really where the theme repertories can shine. Okay. Now, this happens to be one of my favorite quotes, because people ask me a lot, gee, how do I know which rubric I should choose? And I like to quote Jeremy here, who says, the rubric that has the right remedy in it. Now, that seems a bit absurd, right? Of course, that's the rubric that we want, but how do we choose that one? So taking an example of the conundrum that we face, the problem that we face, this comes directly, and I'm going to point out how you can dig more deeply into Jeremy's philosophy around this in just a moment. So here we have an example, a patient who cares too much about others, worries about them, and is burnt out from looking after them. Which of these rubrics are we going to use? There are a lot of rubrics that may or may not be appropriate, in that particular case. Well, in the Repertory of Mental Qualities, we have a rubric called Carers and Helpers. That's going to cover this particular patient, and let's just have a glance at that. So with Jeremy's work in mental qualities or the QREP, we've got 295 remedies. If our patient is one of these carer and helper types, it's very, very likely that we will find the medicine for that patient in this particular symptom in the Repertory of Mental Qualities. Okay? So that's the beauty of creating these theme rubrics, is that we can move away from having to choose from among smaller rubrics and making a mistake, not choosing the right one, and so on and so forth, because we don't want to miss these all-important mental symptoms. Okay, so let's take a look at the QREP, or the Repertory of Mental Qualities. Now, what I want to point out in my presentation here, and if you would like to have a PDF of this, I will make that available through our Radar Opus North America, the customer service thing. In this, I've embedded in here, there's a little link, and I'm just going to click this link, and which will take us to a very important resource for you. Okay, now this resource on the QREP is actually on the main radaropus.com. You'll see here in the URL, it's the radaropus.com/products page. And if you go to that products page, you will find a page for the QREP. And this, it's about a 20-30 minute video here in which Jeremy explains in some detail about that repertory. So if this is something that tickles your fancy and you're interested, you can simply go to that webpage and you can go ahead and watch that in detail. Okay, so I do have those links in what will be a PDF later. Meantime, I've taken what I believe to be the salient points out of there and tried to bring them together for you here. So again, directly from that video that presentation that Jeremy gives us, his mission in creating the Repertory of Mental Qualities was to create a repertory where the right rubric is easy to choose. Remember, that's the one that has the remedy we need. And to create a repertory where the best available remedy must be in the chosen rubric. So that's a tall order, but you see that those rubrics are fairly large, and the team did a good job of really, really researching, scraping the bottom of the barrel to fill the bucket, in this case, for example, for carer and helper remedies, both with new and old remedies. Okay? So that's the mission of the Repertory of Mental Qualities. And I would argue that this same mission, if you will, would hold true for any of these thematic kinds of repertories. So this is Jeremy's formula. If you have the right rubrics, the rubric with the right remedy, you're going to get the right result. Well, let's see. Here's some examples of rubrics you need every day. Okay, and we need these every day. These are the patients that come in. How about victims? How about drugs? How about guilt? Sometimes it's very hard to repertorize those. And so here we have a tool we can use. Now, we're just going to take a little sidebar here into a couple of different approaches toward the repertory, toward symptom analysis, case analysis, if you will, contrasting Bonninghausen and Kent. Okay, and you'll see why in just a moment. So Bonninghausen's emphasis is on, and I'm really overgeneralizing here, but let's say large, very generalized rubrics. And in Bonninghausen's work, he did much less development in the mind section of the repertory. Okay, now on the other hand, we have here we have Bonninghausen's method. Use large general rubrics where you're sure the remedy is there. That sounds familiar, right? That's Jeremy's goal. And only then to go to more characteristic keynotes and particulars like Kent. So Kent did much less generalization. he has a much more developed mind chapter. And of course, our modern repertories, for the most part, are based on Kent. And well-defined symptoms and modalities are what are used then in the case analysis. What Jeremy has attempted to do with the QREP is to take that Bonninghausen approach into the mind section by creating those large general rubrics in the QREP. Okay, so the approach, again, summarizing, is to start with the large, reliable rubrics, repertorizing to a main group of remedies, and then we can use smaller rubrics and modalities to narrow our choice from within the main group. And so I've pointed out here, you might use your QREP or another theme repertory to get this main group of symptoms, to characterize the nature of the patient, the mental, emotional, if you will, or the thematic, your themes of interest. And then you get down into your synthesis or your Boger-Bonninghausen, if you will, or Bonninghausen's repertory to pull from that larger group of remedies, reliable prescription for that patient. Okay, so that's the methodology, and that certainly applies to any of the thematic repertories that we would use. So again, these two approaches are really combined when we have reliable theme repertories. Okay, and again, I just pulled a couple slides from Jeremy's presentation. These are the kinds of sources they really do have. If you're looking for information on some of the newly proven remedies, particularly those that Jeremy and his Dynamis team have proven, you will find those in the QREP. So it's very, very useful in that way. And I'm going to skip the next few little slides. Now, before I jump into talking about Manny Norland's thematic repertory, are there any questions? Okay. Plunging along. Manny Norland has created what is called the thematic repertory, and the same holds true. I'm going to go ahead and just jump us over here really quickly. Again, if you go to radaropus.com/products, you can find this wonderful resource, which is the thematic repertory. Look, he even says here, the thematic repertory does the hard work of grouping similar mind rubrics for you. Yeah, we can group rubrics till the cows come home, but the beauty of this repertory is he's already done the heavy lifting for us. And again, I recommend Manny's introductory video here. I think it's, it's highly worth the 20 minutes or whatever it is that you're going to spend watching that. So, again, if this tickles your fancy, I would get over there and watch that video. Now, let's take a look at the details surrounding this repertory. This one, as we just said, is primarily comprised of rubrics from the mind chapter of, in this case, the synthesis, the latest edition of the synthesis repertory. And family groupings are also included in those themes. Let's see what we mean. Here's a sample of a couple of themes from the thematic repertory. You see that the main rubric here, compulsive. Now, how many patients do we have like this? Probably quite a few, right? Compulsive is the main rubric with 232 remedies. Here we see listed all of the rubrics that have been combined to create this, I like to call them Mondo rubrics, this theme of compulsive. So we don't have to sit here and do all the combining ourselves, okay? Let's take a look at another one here. Connected, content, and unified. Now, when you have a patient for whom that is a theme, you can confidently assume that you're going to find a decent remedy for that patient within the 283 remedies, 83 that are included there, okay? And you will see the listing of the subrubrics. Let's take a look at this in the Radar Opus program, okay? So I'm just going to flip over to my, there we go. Oh, and I'm right here. Actually, I'm right here where I took that screenshot. So let's see how I would get here. I like to open up my program's table of contents by clicking the large icon in the upper left-hand corner, which opens up the list of repertories. And here are my repertories. I happen to have selected Norland's thematic repertory as one of my favorites. And you'll see that I have the favorites listed at the top of my list of repertories here. And so whenever you click on the title, the repertory itself is going to open up over here in the Repertories tab. We have the indication here at the upper left that this is indeed the Repertories tab. Now, for these themes, I've actually turned off the remedies display. You see the little pill bottle here? I'm sure this is review for some of you, but for those who it's not, I want to go ahead and do this for you. I can turn on the display of remedies. And now, you'll see that this first theme here, absorbed or introspective, it says it's got 232 remedies listed. I actually did a little something tricky here. I did this for the purpose of taking those screenshots, but you'll notice that I'm only displaying remedies in grades 4, 3, and 2. Now, how did I do that? Just going to show you, and I'll actually set the display back to where we would normally use it. In the upper right-hand corner of this window, there's the little settings gear. And if I click that, it's going to open up the settings box. And you see there are two tabs here. This one says Repertory. I usually use the document in 2 columns. That's how I usually do it. Again, for the purpose of this presentation, I've changed it. But then there's another tab that says Remedies and Authors. And I opted to uncheck the box for showing degree 1 remedies. There they are. All right, I've turned that back on. And then over here on the right again, I can close up that settings window for this repertory. Okay. So here we have the themes. Now, if we want to see all of the themes and type our way using the navigation window to type our way through the thematic repertory, we're just going to use these binoculars to open up the navigation window. Themes is highlighted, so all I have to do is use the enter or return key. Now, if I know exactly where I want to go, all I've got to do is start typing. So I see, for example, destructive. I can go D-E-S, and as soon as the hand is pointing to destructive, I can just go enter, enter, and I'm going to jump right in to that theme. I can see the remedies that are included, and I can also see these effectively would, technically speaking, these are the sub-rubrics, but the rubrics that have been used to create this theme rubric. You'll also notice that where you see an entry that has got an asterisk and it's gray, those are actually the families. So we have, for example, we have families. We also have miasms included. We have lots of different kinds of family groupings included here. So we have the insects, we have fungi, we have here sea animals, we have syphilitic remedies. And as I mouse over these, you'll notice that there's what we might call a tooltip here that's going to give us the list of the medicines. Here's the tubercular miasm. Okay, so very useful, because if we have decided, for example, to use this rubric destructive in our case analysis, what this is telling us is we really may want to look at any and all of the insects. Okay, that's that. So let's go back and see what we're talking about here. Okay, so these are some sample of the themes and how those were created. Oh, there's another one of those screenshots. I just kind of expanded that out for you, and you saw how I went to just displaying the higher grades and then turned that back. Okay, now I want to point out something else that Manny has done, and that is what's called this new and updated families database. Okay, so remember that where we were looking over here, we saw that there are families listed here. If you've been using Radar Opus for a while, you may or may not have seen that this is a new and updated families database. Okay, let's take a look at that, because I know some of us are not even, we don't always think about the fact that, okay, let's bring our attention over here to the table of contents on the left-hand side where I have the repertories listed here. Let's not forget, again, as I said, a repertory to me is nothing more than an index or a database, right? Now, there's a little triangle just to the left of the word repertories here. And those, if you've been with me for a while, when you click that little triangle, it's either going to open and give you some info or it's going to close and hide some things, right? Let's hide the concepts for just a minute. Here is a whole section of databases, let's call them, that are considered repertories. That's why they're in this part of the contents of your program. Now, you may or may not have as many of these as I do. Notice one thing, a couple things actually. Yakir's Botanical Repertory that we're going to look at in a moment is not actually listed here under the repertories. It's actually listed down here in families of remedies. And I favorited that one. And when I click on that, it's going to open up over here. Now it opens in a repertory window. It's still the repertory window corresponding to this table of contents. But in the table of contents itself, it's sorted out along with families of remedies. And if you recall, upper right-hand corner of that window, once I've opened something, I can go back and look at it again. So I can go back to Norland's thematic repertory just like that. They're all open here, right? There's Yakir. But we came here for a reason, which was to point out to you that Manny Norland has also created a new and updated, let me turn on the remedies display, a new and updated families database. I better turn on those degree ones, hadn't I? There we go. Okay. So these are the families then that you see here that are going to be included in that thematic repertory. We certainly still have, let's not call it the old-fashioned, but yes, Will Taylor's Kingdoms and Families, that's a different database. This is not even the newest version. That says version 2, and then we have new and updated families, which I believe is the very latest. Okay, so be aware that those tools are there for you, and maybe we'll see a little bit more about them in a moment. As in, yeah, right here. Here are some of the new families. So you may not, you probably don't remember seeing these particular, and I just grabbed a little snapshot of some of the families that are now included in the new and updated families document in the program. But there they are. So if you want to look at gemstones, we've got 173 remedies in the gem. In fact, let's do that. I'm kind of curious about that. So how do we do those again? Let's just, to open our navigation window so we never get lost, you're going to use the binoculars, and let's go families, enter, and let's go, okay, Marci, you're not having such great luck, are you? Because where are the gemstones? Oh, guess I better not do that because maybe I am using the wrong one. Let's try over here. Nope. Okay, we're not, you know what? How are we going to go to the gemstones? Watch this. If you can't find them any other way, we're going to use this big tree up here for families. We're going to look for families. We're going to put gemstone, come on, Marci. Gemstones. There they are. And when I type gemstones, it's in new and updated families. There it is. Now, why I couldn't type my way there, I couldn't tell you, but it certainly indeed is there. So I always try and teach you the way. You'll never get lost. If you go back to your contents and you can search for what you're looking for, there it is. And it's in new and updated families, Luke Norland. Okay. I digress. Let us now take a look briefly at Michal, Yakir, and the Botanical Repertory. This, as I said, has more to do with a whole system of thinking with regards to plant families. If this is something that you are interested in, I recommend that you take a look at her website. It is translated. There's an English where you can punch the button and get to the English translation. There's a wonderful short introductory video here where she, and this is on her website, and she explains how she came to this system. And I have just the briefest of excerpts here. This system is based on the evolutionary stages of plant development and correlates those with the stages of human development relating to the challenges and obstacles during the developmental journey of human consciousness from birth to old age, from a more primary stage of union and unity to an advanced stage of individuality. Here's a graphic that demonstrates that concept. The evolution of the plant families from the left, or orders of plants, I should say, but also the plant families, starting from the left, moving from the more yin side to the more yang or individualized side. This correlates with the yin and yang. It can also be correlated with Mappa Mundi. I highly, highly recommend the video. I don't think for some reason, oh, here's the link. All right, let's take a peek at this one. This is fascinating as well. Manny Norland does a really good job here of explaining about this system, and also a lot of screenshots and details. So if this is something that interests you, I highly, highly recommend that you spend an evening with this information. Okay. This is a system that I have become more and more familiar with as time goes on, and I do find it has made a really rich addition to my understanding of materia medica as well as my patients. Okay, so here's the quotation. Her book is called Wondrous Order. Many of you have probably seen that. Again, we looked at this model of human development correlating with the evolution of plants. Now, there is this thing called the Table of Plants, and you can actually order this thing from Narayana, I want to say. I almost confused it with with Narayana Books. You can actually order this relatively inexpensively, and it gives you tons of information about these plant families and the various stages. That information, however, is also available to a greater or lesser degree within the program. And here's a shot of what I mean. So let's go over there and let's have a look now at the botanical repertory. Remember how, oh, I'm going to follow my own advice. Upper right-hand corner, I'm going to go to the botanical repertory. And I'm going to get my navigation window. Now you'll notice that this book is broken down, or this document, I should say, is broken down into 3 sections. If we go to the flowering, well, let's go to themes here first, okay? This is the section that we are going to concern ourselves with today, is the chapter on the themes, okay? That's what brought us here, because I wanted to look at these thematic repertories. But for the purpose of just giving you a little more information, I want to go to this flowering plants and animals section. And I actually want to, here you'll get a sense of, remember the columns that we saw on that, this graphic right here. We're talking about column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This might spark something in your mind, make you think about the table of minerals, the periodic table, right? It's a similar concept in terms of evolution and development. But note that each one of the columns, there's a little symptom note right here. And if I mouse over that, I'm going to get the summary or the keywords. Okay. So this is kind of cool. And, you know, again, if you're intrigued by this particular kind of information, I cannot recommend this highly enough. And I actually, in our case today, I've actually used some of the symptoms from in here. Okay, so how we do it? You guys have questions? Okay, good. So that's the table of plants. And again, we're mostly going to be looking at the themes chapter. But so that you know, we do have the basis of the structure is included, you know, when you have this particular document in your collection. Okay, and here's a screenshot of some of the themes that she's including. Now, some of these the bulk of these are mental symptoms, but you'll notice that there are some sensations as well. For example, over here on the right, we have constriction. And this would make sense, right? Because we're talking about plant remedies. And again, you know, for those who are sensation practitioners and whatnot, we often are looking at the sensation experienced by the patient who needs a particular plant remedy. So some of those are included here. Okay. Oh, we're already to the case. Now, I really just have to stop for a moment and see who's here and who's got a question. Nobody? We're going to get out of here super fast today, unless we bog down on the case. Okay. I am going to allow myself to take my time with this case. Okay. So this is a case of a woman I originally saw in 2016. Original diagnosis was fibromyalgia, and we worked together for many years. And she did well. She improved, you know, layer by layer, step by step, over a period of about 5 years. We, you know, used a lot of remedies. She had thuya, she had stramonium, she had ignatia, from time to time, of course, the acutes. And then at the 5-year mark, I managed to get her a new remedy. And I'll be quite honest with you, I have not heard much from her since then, other than that she's been doing very, very well. So, and that was, it's been 3 years now. Okay. So I'm just going to give you excerpts from her case. And these are I'm by no means giving you the whole case here. Obviously, that would, you know, be more than we need. But what I want to do is give you some snippets so that you can see how it was that I selected the themes that I did. Because at the end of the day, I used the theme approach to solve this case. Actually, I used the combination approach that we pointed out earlier, where I got a pool of remedies, and then I was able to use some peculiar or particulars in the case to actually prescribe. Okay, so this is one of the things that comes up over and over again. Sunshine is important to me. That's one symptom. Here's another. 3 different examples. I set high standards. I struggle with emotional highs and lows. I get upset when I go down, where I feel I can't stop myself from crying. I have high expectations. Now, the themes that I selected from the repertory of mental qualities for this patient, therefore, were light, light and dark. This was a super big theme for her. Light and dark. And, you know, kind of makes sense. Look, she had thuya. Actually, I think her first remedy was stramonium. Okay, so we can kind of see where we're going here. And then this whole idea of things being high and low, that's a theme that recurs throughout the case. Okay, so we have light and dark, and we have high and low. Let's go to the Radar Opus program. Now, I have the case listed here, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to this clipboard. I'm going to designate this, whatever clipboard, I think this would be clipboard number 7. And let's just practice, if you will, throwing a couple of these rubrics onto the clipboard. Okay, so we're not missing anybody's repertorization skills. So for those themes, I used the Repertory of Mental Qualities. And the first one, again, I'm just going to use the binoculars to open my navigation window. And I'm going to look for the first rubric, which was light. Enter. And here's that first rubric with 432 remedies. I guarantee you there's something for her in there, right? Let's just go ahead and put that on the clipboard. And let's go back now. And let's do light and dark, because this is also very much a theme for her. Okay. And since I've designated that particular clipboard as my default clipboard, I can just use the equal sign in the upper right-hand corner, the plus or the equals of my keyboard. And when I press that key, it's going to throw that rubric in here. Okay. So here we have our patient thus far with 2 rubrics from mental qualities. And I'm just going to, down here in the lower left-hand corner, you see it says we have 400, and I can't read it, 43, I think, remedies. If I slide out here, actually, I've only got 181 medicines that appear in both of these rubrics. This is because I'm using my preferred analysis strategy, which is sum of symptoms sorted by degree. What does that mean? That helps us understand what's happening with these numbers up here. Sum of symptoms is this middle line here, the second line. Each remedy here that appears in 2 rubrics will have a number 2 there for sum of symptoms. I can slide all the way down and we will get to the point where sum of symptoms becomes 1. Why? Because tuberculinum, for example, tobacco, I'm sorry, I can't see very well, is only in 1 rubric. Okay, so I'm sure most of you know that. And then once we've sorted them by sum of symptoms, then we're going to sort them by degrees. Now, all of these appeared with the sum of 8, if I add the 4 and 4. So it goes sum of symptoms, sorted degrees, and then it's implied alphabetical order. Okay, just so that we're clear on that one. Now, let us carry on with our case, shall we? We've got I didn't get the high and low. Oops. Back up. Let's go over here again. Let's go back to mental qualities. Let's bring up the navigation and let's do high and low. And let's go ahead and take that one. So I just hit the plus key. So I've got 3. Just out of curiosity now, how far have I narrowed things down? If I'm going to insist that my remedy be here, I'm down to 127 medicines. Doing pretty well, huh? Okay. Let's carry on with this patient using the theme analysis. So here's the next set of symptoms. She says, and this is, again, these are themes that repeat throughout her case. I think a lot about getting old these days. Who's going to take care of you? They abandon people. How does one get along? So there's this concern about being forsaken in old age. And then she is not playing around. She's very clear that she has obsessive compulsive tendencies. For example, she has to walk into a room and has to do certain things, just to touch certain things before she leaves the room. Okay, so that is OCD, right? Old age and OCD are a couple more of the themes that we are going to use for this case, okay? Again, we're just trying to get that pool of remedies that describes the character of our patient. So I'll go back in here and let's just, now I'm using, notice here in the upper left-hand corner, version 4 of mental qualities. There are some new qualities, some new themes in this repertory that did not exist previously. So if you've not updated your mental qualities in a while, might not be a bad idea to do that. As well, the newer families are included in here. So that's just a by the way. Now, what did we say? Mental qualities. We were going to go for OCD. Let's do that one. Okay. Whoops. So there's OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. There it is. Yeah. Now, how can you go wrong? 223 remedies. She's bound to be in there, isn't she? And the other one was old age. So let me go back to my navigation window. I can usually do that using the delete key and then go old. Whoops. Okay, so old age is not in aging. Huh. Oh, you know what? I think I got the old age out of a different repertory. That's why. Brilliant. Okay, so we're done with that for the time being. We'll come back to that and just actually, let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go into, let's go to the Botanical Repertory. Let's go into the themes. And let's look for old age, feeling or appearing, and old age. So there's old age, old feeling or appearing. I'm going to put that on a separate clipboard. Okay. Old in old age. That could also be her. Okay. Now, those are smaller. See, there's only 31 here. There are only 4 there. So I'm not going to dump them into this main where I'm trying to make that giant pool. Okay. See where we are. We've got one more set of symptoms here for this patient. High tolerance for pain, used to dealing with some kind of pain. Okay. I've always carried a lot of guilt. For example, staying at home with my kids. And also she gets very embarrassed. I mean, who gets embarrassed about feeling sick? This is just an example, but it shows the weight of that emotion of embarrassment that this patient feels. Okay, so here are our symptoms there. We have drug-like, we have guilt, and we have embarrassed. And all 3 of those, indeed, we should be able to locate here in our repertory of mental qualities. So I'll just go back there. And what did we say? We had embarrassment. There we go. And guilt. You know, I think guilt is such a great one because so often we have this happening with our patients and we just don't know what to do with it. Is it anxiety of conscience? Is it, any number of things, forgot their duty. The beauty of having these is we don't have to think too hard. We can pretty much be guaranteed our symptom or our patient will be found there. So we had guilt, we had embarrassment, and what was the third one? Oh, drug-like. Okay. Yeah, that's actually a thing. And there's a lot of history of drug use in this family as well. Drug states. Remember, she said she, just tolerates pain, doesn't experience pain, high tolerance for pain. So there she goes. There we have our patient now characterized using the repertory of mental qualities, the themes, if you will. And let's now indulge ourselves by scrolling out to see where we have 7 total rubrics included here. And we've got 33 remedies in our remedy pool, right? Not so bad. Okay. With any luck, we have accurately characterized our patient using this selection of rubrics. And we can eliminate from consideration anything that appears here to the right of mandragora. So calcarea, because it's not there for the drug states, is out. Lachesis does not have the embarrassment, neither thuya. So they're out. And when you have 163 remedies here, and these polycrests are not included, that's pretty solid. That feels pretty solid to me anyway. So we're dealing with 33 remedies. Now, if I wanted to from here, I could actually turn these into elimination rubrics, which would mean that they're a filter and we would not see anything that is not in any one of those rubrics. I'm not going to choose to do that this time. Hopefully most of you know how to do that. And if you'd like to see it, you can let me know. Okay, so that's the case. That is the entire case. Now I want to go to my next slide here, which talks about, I actually analyzed this case a couple different ways. So let's go back here to the original analysis that I had. And on this first clipboard, this was my attempt to create a rubric for the OCD. Okay. And this goes to Jeremy's point about the careful crafting of those theme rubrics that are contained in the QREP. You'll see here that I took all of these rubrics, individually dragged them over to the clipboard. And then what I did is I actually select all, I right-clicked. I chose group or combine rubrics. I added them I put them in together in a group. This is the way I like to group, because I like to maintain the integrity of my rubrics. Should I want to remove one or see where the remedies are at the end of the day? So this is actually being considered as just one symptom, right? How do I know for sure? Because again, remember, some of symptoms, each one of these is just, each medicine appears in just one symptom. That's because the computer considers this to be one. Let's compare this, my feeble attempt at OCD, with Jeremy's OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, I just put this for comparison so that we could kind of, now I'm going to scroll out to the right here. And what you will see is, even in my best attempt to create a nice beefy rubric there, I had 109 remedies. He keeps on going, and he could make a case. Actually, I have more than 109, didn't I? Because some of these are appearing now here again that are not appearing with him. But you see the point here, by using Jeremy's rubric's got 223. Mine has how many? I can look down here, 179. So he's added a few. I guess that's the point. Okay, so there's the OCD. What I actually did when I was working up this case is I took the OCD. I decided to just not use this one for a minute, my own feeble attempt. And I'm going to use the Jeremy's OCD along with those others. Now, what you'll find is that this set here is exactly the same set that we just worked through here. There are 7 rubrics total: sulfur, nux, arsenicum. Let's take a look. Yes, sulfur, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you know what's different? High and low, light and dark. What am I missing? Oh, I forgot to put female hormones in down here. Why? Because that's one of her main complaints. She's got, like, she's perimenopausal. I apologize. I didn't put that in the actual case write-up, but when I worked her case up, I used female hormones quality, if you will, from the Repertory of Mental Qualities. So what I am looking at now, if I take all of these, we'll go ahead and put this OCD one down here on clipboard 3. So they're all together. There we go. I'm looking at 52 medicines to choose from. Oh, I also didn't put the fear of disease on this one. Okay. Well, tell you what, we'll eliminate that. We don't really need it. And since I didn't put it in the case, we'll just throw it away. That's why I ended up with 50 medicines instead of, there we go, 61. Okay, so this is basically the case that I've given you. Now, remember down here, I put the feeling old age, feeling old, feeling or appearing old. I actually took other symptoms from the QREP. So let's go back to the screenshots. Here's that first set of the mental qualities from QREP. Then I took themes from the Botanical Repertory. I have the guilt, the controlled or controlling, that's the OCD. I combined those, and the old feeling. Okay, let's go back to the Repertory. Let's look at that one, which is going to be here. Nope. Sorry. There they are. These themes are from, remember, you can double click and you'll go right there. These themes are from the Botanical Repertory. So in my analysis, I have the QREP themes. I have the smaller themes from the Botanical Repertory, comprising guilt. I combined these two, controlled, controlling, and the OCD, and the theme of feeling old. And by pointing in, if you want to, if we could think about it that way, into this larger pool, things have rearranged themselves a bit here now. No remedy, no one of these remedies appears in every one of these themes, but we've definitely begun to shift the weight by using these themes from the Botanical Repertory. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do in my case analysis is I'm going to bring in, now that I've got this thing narrowed down, I've got that pool of remedies that I want to look at, I'm going to bring in what I'm going to call my strange, rare, and peculiar, or my peculiar remedy. This woman was suffering with, and had for many, many years, had a real problem with excessive menstrual bleeding, particularly at night. I've chosen two remedies here for that. The larger one would be the copious menses, but really where the issue lies is this rubric right here. And that one is taken directly from the synthesis repertory. Okay, female genitalia, menses, copious at night. And I had probably used that in many, many prescriptions for her prior to. Okay, so if we go back to our repertorization now, we're beginning to see some medicines shine through. We want to make sure that in all instances, whatever remedy we choose is contained or covered by all of the symptoms up top. If we want to make this now copious menses at night, if we want to make that a filter, or we want to force the issue, I can right click. I can change the qualification to what we call an eliminative rubric. Watch what happens. There we go. What has now happened is that all the remedies that did not belong to that copious menses at night have disappeared from view. Okay. And I have limited my remedy selection now to the medicines that appear in this rubric. And now my work is really quite simple, because I want something that appears up here in all 6 of those mental qualities. I want this one. And then for a bonus, look here, I've got guilt and I've got controlled or controlling. And my medicine was coca. That is the remedy that really cracked the case, if you will, for this particular patient. Now I'd like to show you just one more little detail. So that's the one that we invented, right? We're going to get rid of that. No, it's not that one. Here we go. The rows and columns. You remember I showed you how the rows and columns in that botanical repertory will have a little symptom note? I actually put those down here. So that medicine appears in row 3 in the dicots. Let's just go take a look and see what the symptom note says. This is the stage of infancy, will and shame, autonomy, and control. And here's the little symptom note about that. Okay, again, this is based on, I believe this is Ericksonian developmental theory. And let's look at the other one, which was the column. So this is in column 5, which is over toward the right. So there's quite a bit of ego development. We're almost at the stage of complete individuation. The problems usually come up between me and the other person. Okay, yeah, me and other. Okay, so I just put that in as a little sort of a bonus so that you could see. I will often, we can take these as large themes. If we're so certain that we want to give a plant remedy and it belongs in one of those themes, we can do that. Okay, but this is a case of coca. And sorry about that. There it is. Okay. How about questions now? There's all the themes. There's the final repertorization. We're like running early, which is great. It does leave us time for some questions and comments if you guys would like to. Is there any, let me see if there's anybody that's not. I know you can chat. So why don't you chat if you have something to say? And hearing nothing, I want to remind you of where you can find us. Radaropus.us. We serve North America. And you can find us at radaropus.us. This is the Radar Opus, the main website for worldwide, but we are here at radaropus.us. If you ever want to find us and you want to find any of our additional free trainings, free on-demand videos, I have a number of videos there that you might want to watch. You can also go to my website, which is marcimearns.com, and I've started to put my videos up there, and as well as upcoming trainings and events like that. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can go directly there and you'll find the Radar Opus training videos. I'm going to stop my share for just a moment. Well, actually, I want to say because I want to remind you guys, I'm going to do another one of these. Really appreciate you coming out and spending the time here. I'm going to do another one. I think it's like, what's that, in 4 weeks? And I've got some more books. The brand new Earthwise Herbal Repertory Materia Medica. This is a wonderful and important work by Matthew Wood. And then a couple of other pieces as well. So kind of the topic, the subject matter I'm hoping to look at is herbs and drainage and how to get the information out of some of these newer documents that we have available, these newer resources that we have available in Radar Opus. Oh, good. Someone chatted. Well, Elaine, thank you. I'm glad it was interesting. I hope that everyone learned something. You know, I really just want to say in conclusion with all this, I am going to stop my share here now. I just want to say that it's been many years that I've been using these theme repertories, and I tend to kind of go in, I'll use them for a while and then I'll forget about them as a resource. But I have to say that prepping for today really reminded me of how useful these resources are. So I think that, you know, as practitioners, we need to use whatever we have available to us. And I would strongly encourage you to give them a try. You know, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out for you and you don't get the solution. But when you have a case like this one that I had, where I've been working with the woman and doing the same old polycrests and coming at it this way and coming at it that way, it finally just took a little diligent application of the themes of the case to be able to find a great medicine for her. Okay. So, gosh, I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap up. Let me see. Anita, thank you so much. You all have are invited to reach out to me at any time. I'll go ahead and make that PDF of today's recording available to our customer service, which is orders@radaropus.us. I'll also throw it up there on my website. So if you just want to go over there and grab a copy of that, you'll have the links where you can get to those videos that you can use for exploring the books. Richard, you made it all the way, or did you fall asleep? Richard told us he was sick. He thought he wasn't going to be able to stay, but he's managed to stick with us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the very best in all your good work. And yeah, do come back next month, okay? Bring a friend. Love to have you, okay? Meantime, take good care, everyone. Bye for now. Thanks. Bye-bye.